Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back, Will. Hey, dude, we're doing a podcast.
Podcast now.
We didn't use that word in the last one, but I think that's what this is, right?
We know what we are.
We're just a couple of cyclist white dudes making a podcast. Don't
World
mind us.
needed another one.
The world needed one more. So we're talking about stage 4 of the Chicago Intelligentsia Cup. This is Mundelein, and there's a lot of really interesting footage to dive into. You ready? 75 minutes, uncut. No cuts allowed.
Let's get in.
Tell us about the course, Will.
Yeah, it's got that technical little roundabout. You can see the guys going through right now. Gets tight in areas, but overall usually comes to that bunch finish, if not a little bit more selective bunch.
Right, and we don't have a rear cam. It'll come on. I turned it on a little bit later in the race because it was struggling with batteries. The rear camera will show, but if you could see a rear camera right now, it would be showing me like pretty close to the back, which was actually a little bit scary early on in this race. Do you remember the first few laps of this race were really fast?
Yeah. As soon as somebody gets up to the front, they feel like they can send it early and make stuff happen, and they make people hurt for it.
Yeah, it's pretty technical. It's a good course for a breakaway. So people were trying early on, and I was a bit worried because these little gaps were opening up, and like I said, I'm right at the back. Just a dangerous spot, but I want you guys to pay close attention to this rider in front of me. God, I always mess his name up. Rensburg.
Reinhard Jansi van Rensburg.
There you go. You got it. It's a mouthful.
Yeah.
As long as he's back here with me, I was given this certain amount of reassurance, like, oh, he's not gonna get dropped. So like, I might have to follow him as he smashes across gaps and stuff. But that's totally fine with me. As long as I'm next to him, that's fine. So I wasn't super eager to like panic move up at this point in the race, as long as some of these stronger guys were around me, especially him, because he's like former World Tour not that long ago, and he's really talented, really strong bike racer. Yeah. Should we talk about the teams too? Because we just talked about Rensburg and the Disruptors, but there were only 2 of them. There were bigger teams like Legion, Blazers. Who else did we have?
Yeah, we had Austin Aviators there too. I guess there were some Butcher Box guys present as well.
Butcher Box guys were showing up in 1s and 2s for sure. They were getting bigger throughout the series, and then same with you guys on Project Echelon.
Yeah, of course.
You guys had it at this point. How many of you were there?
I think we had at this point. I think we had 4 guys still.
Okay. 4 guys. I think that's what you guys had in the last race too. Is that how many? Did you add more later on, or did it just feel like you guys had 8 of you? Because you guys are always in the right position.
We brought 3 more guys, so in the end we did have 7 dudes.
Oh, okay. So you actually did have a lot more. It wasn't just me.
We did have more. Yep.
So early on in this race, it was I think you got a glimpse of the front there just for a second. You can see the little gaps opening up right there. You can get a shot of the little gaps. People dropping already. Look at that. Like, oh, there was maybe a crash right there. So this is what I was talking about. As long as I'm behind Rensburg, like, it's gonna be okay. And there's a Legion rider in front of him by the body shape there. It looks like who is that? Actually, I'm not even sure. They all kind of look the same from this distance.
It looks a little like Boardman to me.
I was gonna say Boardman, but the point is wearing that white jersey that says Legion on it. So like, he's not gonna get dropped either.
Don't worry too much.
Yeah, I'll be all right. We're going 32 miles an hour. I'm getting a good draft here, and we make contact. But and you can see the effort that these guys are putting in, and I'm just benefiting from their draft. So what was your guys' plan on Project Echelon in this race?
Yeah, so this race was actually pretty interesting because we did have an expectation that it could be a sprint, if not a little group that would make it to the sprint, so like later race effort. This is a fast course, so usually it's going to be really late where stuff happens, but it's hard the entire time. Even if little breakaways don't work, people are suffering the whole time. So that's really good for our team, where we can get guys up there and fresher than the average bear in the sprint. So our team kind of needed to protect each other, stay up front, follow anything that did go, and represent the best way we could in late moves.
Yeah, which can be tricky when there's only 4 of you,
Mm-hmm.
because you're going up against these established teams with 8 riders. Um, but but having that representation, and you mentioned this in the last video, it was like the harder it gets, the better you guys do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We work best on legs being a road race specific team. Especially with these shorter races, we've got to make it as hard as we can, so our legs kind of stay the same and everybody else's hopefully get a little worse.
What was Rensburg doing right there? People might be wondering.
That's got to
I've
be a
gotten
tire
comments.
pressure check.
There you go. Yeah, people have
Yeah.
asked, and he's not just bunny hopping because it's sick and it's cool, which it is, but yeah, he's just checking his tire pressure. If you feel a little squish, a little bit something weird, you don't want to find out in the apex of a corner going 30 miles an hour. So if you bounce like that, and you bottom out, or it just feels particularly squishy, that's the quickest way to kind of figure it out without having to learn the hard way. So that's what he was doing. But in any case, outside line here is going to be good. This is kind of the first time maybe I realized that outside line was a little bit faster, a little bit inconsequential there. I passed like 2 riders, but I'm going to find some lines. We're going to talk about the lines. I want to contrast this course, though, with Winfield, which was the last video. Because Winfield, I think, is probably the least technical, with the exception of maybe the very last day. Winfield is a very simple course, very high speed, very not breakaway friendly, despite my best efforts for making a breakaway happen.
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
course, though, has features. I absolutely love this course, this roundabout.
Yeah.
You can pedal through that roundabout. Were you pedaling through it?
I was pedaling like later into it. I had the like wide stance pedals on, so it was a little riskier for me to pedal through that.
Oh, right. That's my biggest criticism with those pedal-based power meters.
Yeah.
Is the what is it? The Q factor is wider.
Yep.
Which is like fine. Like it doesn't matter that much from a physio standpoint. Like I don't know if it affects like my power output or anything like that. But it's the cornering thing, right? Like you'll clip a pedal much easier.
Yeah, I definitely prefer crit racing with the narrower ones, but physiologically for me, yeah, the wider stance does help my knees. So that's a weird balance I've got to work out, but I've actually switched off of those lately, so now on a normal pedal system.
Okay, and there's that outside line. That was a consequence. Like that
Oh.
was 15 riders, right? And it wasn't even doing
Yeah.
that much power. So finding good lines on technical courses is so important. And we talk about this in the other videos, but it's worth repeating. Something that my teammate Roman has said in a previous video is like, hey, on really high level racing like this, where we're averaging 30 miles an hour even on technical courses, find a thing that you're good at on a course, whether it's one line through a corner, whether it's like one thing that is gaining you position, and try to repeat it. Because if you try to do too many things, it's not going to work out. So that was one of I had kind of 2 spots. I know I just said 1, but I had that one, which wasn't always available, and I had another one, which I'll point out when we get there. But I want to come back to the equipment conversation because I know people will be interested, and I'm interested too in what other folks are riding, because I'm surprised to see that you were on those wider pedals. I have those Asiomas, and they're fine, whatever. Like sometimes they drop out for me, but I don't race them in a crit because I am terrified of a pedal clip and crashing. You understand
Right.
the limits of your equipment much better. If you're using them all the time, it's fine. You kind of recalibrate to where that limit is. But for me, I'm like terrified of it.
Yeah, the learning period is a little rough. You can get yourself into trouble if you don't quite understand it subconsciously, but you get used to it.
Oh, dude, I just switched. I'll make a video about this. I guess this is part of the podcast too, is you get sneak peeks on like what's going on a week or two in the future. I just installed a new crank, a rotor crank. So
Nice.
power-based crank. Yeah, I'm excited about it. I've only been on a couple of rides with it so far, so good. But here's the thing, man. I'm going for it. I'm always a late adopter. They're 165s.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I think
I
you'll
know,
like those.
Okay, so we talked. Part of it was what you said in our last one, because you run shorter cranks too, right?
Mm-hmm.
What? Do
Yeah,
you
I'm still in the
run
170s.
170. Okay, so I was running 172.5 for 10 years.
Yeah.
Because that's just what came on my bike. And then I'd realized you can just go a shorter crank. I don't even feel the difference, and I can corner a lot better. So I was on 170s for whatever the last 2 years, maybe 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm going for it, man. Another 5 millimeters. And honestly, I could tell a little bit, but it's very small. It's not like changing handlebars. Handlebars you feel right away, right?
Yeah. Yeah, handlebars are yeah,
go ahead,
you
sorry.
beamed it.
I just hit that bottle.
You beamed it.
Sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead.
handlebars are an instant handling change for sure.
Yeah, but with the I could tell, like I noticed that the cranks were a little bit shorter. Of course, you got to change your saddle accordingly, or else you're really going to tell. But but it wasn't like this night and day difference. And here's the reason I thought about it is this roundabout. I was on 170s in this race, so the roundabout I felt like I could pedal through. But with the 165s, you could really pedal through it with no worries at all. Hey, that's you right there, right?
That's me. Yeah.
Lucky number 13. We're gonna see a lot more of you. I think we were together in this race quite a bit too.
Oh, nice. Yeah, this roundabout with the 170 cranks and the wide stance, I had to be careful. See, I'm already coasting now.
And I would say about half the time, even if you were pedaling, there's nowhere you could go. I wasn't pedaling there for a little bit because where am I going to go? Look, there's grass to my right, riders to my left, riders in front of me. So yeah, oftentimes it doesn't even make sense to pedal. But when you could, it was a bonus because hey, when you can pedal. It's a bit counterintuitive for people just getting into the sport. You want to be pedaling for the entire course. Resting is no good because it's basically robbing. You're gonna have to make up for that. And if you're coasting or even worse, if you're braking, you're gonna have to make up for it eventually. And maybe it's the next 5 seconds, maybe it's a minute later, but you're gonna either lose position or have to make a lot of power if you come off the pedals. So you always want to be pedaling and keep it smooth and consistent, and avoid big surges in power like I just did, which sometimes, let's be honest, it's unavoidable, right? If the riders in front of you are taking are doing that, then you have to do that, right? Sometimes it's just out of your control, or it's just a technical course and it's out of your control, but you just try to avoid it as best as possible. And you'll notice the best riders will avoid those big surges in power. Oh, MitoQ is another team we forgot to mention. They were leading the race at this point. They're strong. They
were. They had Ben Oliver, who, he's a stout rider. I want to point out that last corner back there. Your outside line is really good, and you can use it often. But a dude on this lap, actually, he just ran into the gravel on the outside there. So there is a little consequence if you hit that at too high of a speed and get pushed wide.
100%. And that happened a number of times. I noticed that too.
Yeah.
That happened a number of times throughout this race. People would go a little bit too wide, and it just went from road to gravel. There wasn't a curb. There was hardly even a lip. And when you hit gravel like that, you have to straighten up. Otherwise, you're going to wash out on road tires at that speed. So yeah, that's why you saw a lot of people entering that gravel pit, just committing to the gravel pit, popping back out, and it got a little bit dicey through there. So you had to be heads up for sure. But when there was space, it was the line to carry speed and avoid that surge in power like we were talking about. And that's why I kept finding that outside line. This is Ethan, right? Number 12?
Yeah. He actually just got pushed back into the race. I think he had a very early flat in this race, which you might have seen him pull out for a little bit. So he's back in now.
Yeah, I saw him falling back. I was talking like I like to do. And you can see there's Corey too. So Corey, I think this was the first day that Corey came out. Corey Williams for Legion. The characteristic GoPro on top of the head. Although you're seeing more riders actually. Here's Connor with the same helmet cam.
Can we talk about that? I have safety concerns for myself using that. I don't know. You clearly don't use them. What's your concept of that placement of a helmet cam?
Yeah, helmets are designed in a very specific way, and when you put a hunk of glass and hard plastic, molded plastic on top of your head, it probably isn't the best thing for safety. I also get a little bit sketched out when I put it on my chest. I run the chest at Alviso oftentimes because it's a cool perspective. And you notice I don't do chest in these races, and it's not for an Aero benefit or anything like that. It's just because the stakes are a bit higher here, and I don't want to crash with a GoPro on my chest or my helmet for that matter.
Yeah.
Right? I want it to be stuck on my bike. If I'm gonna go down, I don't want it to be breaking my ribs or twisting my neck in a weird way. For sure, that's not it. And then there's this other thing too, which is funny. Corey's got the most cutting edge. That's all his old bike, right? He's got the new SL8. He's got the most cutting edge engineered in a wind tunnel, helmet, glasses, jersey, bike, and then he's like, yeah, screw all that. I'm going to put a square piece of plastic. Oh, God, did you see that?
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
That was a consequence.
Dude, you called it. Just what was that last lap?
Yeah.
That guy almost ate it. So he didn't commit to the gravel. Once you go into the gravel pit, you got to commit to it. And he tried to bail out, and he almost crashed right in front of me. That would have been scary. That's what happened last year, by the way. The same course in the same area. But yeah, it's funny that he plops the GoPro on his head, and then he still wins some of the highest level, most prestigious races on the calendar. So, guys, it's the racer. It's not the equipment. Like I'm not going to sit here and say you can buy yourself a victory in this sport. You can buy yourself performance, no doubt, but it is like the last possible resort for getting faster in this sport. And yeah, my advertisers probably won't love hearing that, but that's the truth. Like, equipment's cool and all, but what do you think, man? It's about position. It's about finding lines like this one. That was pretty.
Yeah,
pretty
that was a good line. I think, the unique part about aerodynamics is that it doesn't matter if you're in a bunch. And Corey, being a sprinter, 98% of the race, he's not going to get any wind speed over his bike. So aerodynamics are not seen. Like they're pretty much doing nothing. So the fact that he has that GoPro on his helmet is probably not costing him energy until he actually
Except
hits the wind with
most.
10 seconds. Yeah.
But at that point, it's like, what's his position?
Right.
Of course, what's the power he's making? That's big. But what's his position? How has he timed his sprint? How has he positioned himself to prevent others from coming underneath the Legion train on the final corner? It's that stuff that Legion doesn't get credit for. Everyone's like, they're the strongest. They have the best equipment, and like, yeah, they're strong, and yeah, they have good equipment, but that stuff pales in comparison to how skilled they are handling their bikes and acting like they're like a school of fish. Like, they work together.
Yeah. They are a complete unit as a team.
They're so good at that, man. It's really impressive to watch them. So 68 here in the black kit. That's teammate Ryan.
Nice.
Why is he not wearing purple of Team Mike's bikes? The same reason I'm not. It's because this isn't a team race, and we just wanted to kind of do our own thing. And we got sponsored by Rule 28, which is the black skin suit. And then also I'm on a Scott bike because I wanted to give Scott a try. And yeah, speaking of equipment, no excuses. I wish I could blame my poor results on the equipment, but no, everything felt great on the bike and the kit and everything. But that's the reason why people have been asking a lot in the comments about, like, wait a second, there's no purple Mike's Bikes jersey, and it's like that's the reason why I'm back in purple now that I'm outside of Intelligentsia. But this wasn't a team race, so we didn't treat it as such. That's the answer.
And you guys were wearing Aero bras in the full skin suit, right?
Dude, we went for it. The no excuses setup.
Nice. Excellent.
The Aero bra.
Was that comfortable?
Aero bra. Okay, so I had to size up, which is weird. I'm a medium for everything. I had to wear the large. So if you're gonna buy the Rule 28 Aero bra, it's I would suggest sizing up, especially if you're kind of marginal. If you're usually a medium, go with the large, because I felt like the medium was like. The material's different. It's not like jersey material. It's not super stretchy. It was like pinching my arms, and I don't have big arms anyway, but like it was still, the mediums were pinching my arms. So yeah, it was fine. I was worried about the heat because we're out here in Chicago sweating, right? But the texture, actually, it might even be better for evaporative cooling, because what it does is those ridges. Okay. First, a step back. What is it? It's just, you guys maybe have seen it. It's literally like a sports bra for a guy is what it looks like. Yeah. But all it does is it puts texture on your arms, and texture is undeniably faster wind tunnel tested for especially tube shapes like your upper arm. So anyway, that's what it is. But those ribs, those textures on your arm actually pull your jersey away from your skin just by like a millimeter. So it actually cools a little bit better, if anything. But the short version to your question, that's another good inside line right there.
Yeah.
The other, just to quickly answer your question, the short version is like, no, it didn't feel cumbersome. I didn't even know it was there. So
nice.
They've done a good job if you size up.
Yeah, cool. Good to hear. That's
crazy
a lot of our guys have had those. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they have. Yeah, it's crazy, dude. Their Rule 28's marketing is like organic viral marketing. Like there are pictures of like Pogacar wearing it, and I was
Oh,
like, oh cool, you
nice.
guys. And when I was talking with them about this about Intelligentsia, the Rule 28 guys, they were like, yeah, no, we don't sponsor them. Like we didn't pay.
Yeah.
We can't. You think we can afford that? I was like, no. They said, oh yeah, no. Like he was just wearing it, and I was like, that is the single best piece of advertising you guys could
Yeah.
possibly hope for. They're like, dude, no kidding. Like, we put that on our Facebook page. Yeah, we definitely let the world know, like, the
Yeah.
best in the world are wearing this, which is pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it's awesome. I know brands like that and like Bont. A lot of the dudes in the pro peloton, they get on Bonts for the first time and they're hooked. So even if they're not sponsored, they're gonna try and ride them. So stuff like that, that's good marketing. Just
I
having a
ride
good
Bonds.
product.
Yeah,
Yep.
no, that's what it is. People will wear it. Especially, it's even doubly important. It's even doubly impactful, I should say, when the pro teams are wearing it, because the pro teams will be sponsored by a shoe company.
Oh,
Most
quick pause here.
oftentimes. Yeah.
Look at Hugo here on your inside. He's still got his saddlebag on from his ride to the race.
Okay, I was gonna ask you about that. He just forgot, right?
Yeah, he just forgot to take it off, and nobody told him this entire race until the end when we were all like, "Hey, buddy, we didn't want to see you take it off, but you did have a
Gains, bro.
saddlebag on for that." Yeah.
Gains. I'm surprised he didn't know. Oh, I guess if he rode there with it,
Mhm.
then it's not a big deal because then you get kind of used to it. Because I was gonna say, like, when I put a saddlebag on, I can just feel it right away. I'm like, oh, especially when you stand up, the saddle kind of rocks back and forth. You can be like, oh yeah, there's extra weight there. But that's hilarious. It's like Alviso out here, man. Except we're going
Yeah,
30 miles
absolutely.
an hour, and it's the nation's best.
Right, right. I actually heard a recent podcast, the Chris Miller, talking about going out and doing Alviso. He said it was a
Oh,
pretty good time.
dude, that we had so much fun. That's another video that I have done that I'm gonna post pretty soon. It's done. I just need to like make a thumbnail and a title for it. But yeah, that one's
Nice.
done. We had a good time. He was right here in my garage where I'm sitting now. It was fun to see
Oh,
him in the
cool.
flesh. I like those guys. They make a cool podcast too. Chris Miller Cycling Podcast. And yeah, he was here and came out to Alviso, man. He's like, I felt like I was like in a dream. Like it's weird. Like this isn't digital. I'm actually here on the road.
Right,
He said it was
right.
surreal.
Did you I don't know if you listened to his podcast, but he was talking about how he was surprised you didn't get more complaints about people like skipping work to do the Alviso crit. I didn't know it was like midday on a Tuesday. That's a great
12
time.
o'clock on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's the best time because it's your lunch break, man. You go out and you
Yeah.
smash. It's only 30, usually about 35 minutes long. Sometimes 34, sometimes 37, whatever. But yeah, it's short. People ride out, get that midday intensity, and go back to work. It's right next to
Nice.
like NASA where I work. It's right next to Microsoft, Google, all these. It's Silicon Valley, right? There's all these tech headquarters, so people just roll out from their offices, smash for a bit. Plus, like this work from home situation makes it easier too, right?
Yeah,
Schedule
absolutely.
meetings
A little more
accordingly.
flexibility. Hmm.
So I've been kind of chipping away. Let's talk about maybe for a second, and then we can get back to gear talk because I love gear talk.
Yeah.
We've been chipping. I've been chipping away at this. I was up there with I don't know where Ryan is at this point. You can tell it's fast right now, huh? I'm doing 600, and I'm like, oh, I gotta stitch this up a little bit. Oh, I can see why. There's a little move off the front. Ryan was a part of that, by the way. So teammate Ryan, little move off the front, 6 riders or so it looked like, and he was in that. So this is great. It's cool having a teammate out because yeah, it's just one. There's not a whole lot we can do when push comes to shove against these bigger teams, but it's cool having that camaraderie and having Ryan out, man. We have fun racing together. So this is the first day he was out. I've been racing solo up until this point. I did not take a good line through there. You see, I'm paying for it now with 850 watts. It's also really fast right now, and it's single file like this.
Yeah.
But
I think
what about you guys? You must have been represented in that move off the front.
Yeah, I think Ethan was actually in it, and I was the first person to not be in it, so I just sat up and let them go, if I remember
that.
correctly. So that was excellent. It was like, oh, now we don't have to worry about that for a little bit. Get a little recovery in here. That outside line on the roundabout, that was actually one of my favorite lines, especially not being able to pedal, so you could hold some more momentum through that thing. But yeah, this breakaway I think came back kind of quickly, didn't it? Do you remember how long it took?
Oh god, like a lap or two. It might already be back based on the way these guys are riding. Yeah, there was no real threatening breakaway that had more than a handful of seconds in this race. And that wasn't for lack of effort. Like, everybody wanted. You guys saw how nuclear the first couple of laps were. People were really trying to make something happen on this course, especially coming from Winfield. There's the gravel pit. People riding the gravel pit. See, the Blazer rider did it the right way. You commit to it, man.
Yeah, you just exit naturally instead of trying to hop back on. Yeah, that's a better way to do it.
Yep. But yeah, it was fast and single file there for a while, and now it's back together, and then you just kind of wait for the next one to go. But I think people were chomping at the bit because of yesterday's Winfield race, where it was really not conducive for a breakaway, and people were, a lot of breakaway riders were kind of waiting for a more technical day like today. But even this one, like these long straightaways, you can see really far down the road. You can send a teammate up there and just do, hey, get on the straightaway and just chase stuff back. That's what a lot of these teams were doing, because a lot of these teams, like, it's Legion. Legion was content for things to be a sprint. They had probably the strongest sprinters in this race, arguably the strongest sprinters in the country. So they're always happy for things to come back together for a field sprint, especially now that Corey's here. Although Corey's role in this race was a bit of a mystery, especially as this race progressed. I didn't know exactly what his role was going to be here. He was fresh off a crash at Salt Lake. Was that? Well, that was before this, right?
Yeah, that was I think the week before. So he had to have been healing up from that. But lately, he has been racing a lot differently with them than he has in the past.
It's a bit interesting, right? He's always been the more well-rounded when you compare him with his brother Justin. He's been the more well-rounded athlete, but he's always still been obviously feels like a sprinter first. But it seemed like he was really doing chasing duties and breakaway duties, and his role was completely different than I was expecting, and I think a lot of people were expecting in this race. People were following him, and then he would do really bizarre stuff, uncharacteristic stuff. And that's the nice way of saying it. Not particularly smart stuff later in the series. We're going to do more of these, Will and I. We can talk about that, because I think in I think it was Lombard. He did some weird stuff that I captured and I was behind him, and I was like, that's not it. So we can talk more about that in tomorrow's video.
My theory for this race is actually that maybe for Intelli, they were just kind of given free roam to have fun. They did seem like Robin seemed like he was racing just whatever looked fun to him, he would do it. And a lot of the other guys were doing the same thing. So they could have been doing that, and then once it got to the end, they think it's a sprint. They just line it up for tie. But I'm not actually certain that's how they were racing it.
Well, no, that's a good theory. That's in line with how they were racing, and the results kind of indicated that, because if you compare this, look at this inside line. See, it wasn't always the outside line. Sometimes, am I going to send it? Oh yeah, one more. When you ever see that little gap like that, just send it one more.
Yeah.
Get right between these Project Echelon guys. They seem like they know what they're doing. But compare. Yeah, this guy also wanted to come inside the inside. So yeah, you always have to be careful about that. He also sent it one more. Right. But so Legion, comparing this year to last year, the hey, just kind of do whatever you want theory, which I like, it didn't necessarily work out for them, because if they dedicate themselves to line it up for a field sprint, I think the level of racing last year wasn't quite as high. Or actually, it was 2 years ago, rather. 2 years ago when they came out. They won, Ty won 7 of them or something, didn't he? It was insane. He won so many because they just were dedicated to, let's line things up. Ty's going good. Let's line things up for a field sprint. And instead of trying to be okay at everything, they were trying to be really great at one thing, which is let's get Ty wins. And that seemed to be much more successful. Look at that inside line. That one rider came through, and then speaking of Corey, there he came up that inside. So that inside was really good into the final couple of corners, which I kind of consider one corner, those last two.
Yeah, it's kind of an extended U-turn. That turn did end up being consequential. I'm not sure if you got that particular incident on camera.
We'll get there. Oh yeah.
Okay, cool.
I got it.
That was interesting. You could roll the dice with that inside line. I actually preferred the outside on that. If it opened up and you could maintain momentum, the exit was super wide too. Although inside you would make up a lot of spots really quickly, and then could possibly have to sprint out of it. But either way was good.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I think I took both, and I think we're going to see that. Interrupt me. Stop me if I'm in the middle of talking away, because that's what I like to do. If you see some particular line through there, because I was taking both the inside and the outside. I think we can show that in future laps. But just to wrap this thought I had on how Legion raced this, which is kind of like the free reign, which was it. Yeah, they had the lead for a while, and they won 2 or 3 stages, 3 stages I think, which don't get me wrong is great. I would be happy with that, obviously, but they are like the premier team everyone's looking at, and they're coming off of their last participation in this race. They won like 6 or 7, so it seemed like what they were doing 2 years ago was working a lot better. But who knows the inner workings of Legion? It seemed a mystery, especially after this edition of Intelligentsia. I wasn't quite sure what they were doing.
Yeah, it was kind of peculiar, but they were having a great time out there, I can tell you. Yeah, they all seemed to be having a lot of fun, so maybe that was the goal.
Vibes were good this entire series. I didn't notice any teams that were having a rough go, that were grouchy. Like in years past, it seems like people, like there were some teams that would show up, I won't call any teams out specifically, that were just like not enjoying it. Like, this is hard, this is dangerous, this is whatever, the courses suck, the weather, this, that. Everyone was just having a good time. Like I released that video where I did equipment, right? Unfortunately, I didn't go talk to you guys because you were kind of building in numbers throughout the series, but I went and talked to some team tents, and everyone was just enjoying the experience. It was so much fun outside of racing. Like the whole atmosphere was great, and Legion too. I chatted with some of them for that gear video. I talked with Sam specifically, but everyone was just happy to be there. It was good energy, man, for sure.
Yeah, that gear video was pretty cool. I found it interesting. A lot of the guys are on the same equipment. I guess you did talk to like Legion franchise teams, so that makes sense. But tire pressures was a very interesting one for me. They're running way lower than I was expecting.
Same here. Yeah, like 55 to 60 under like under these conditions, like good, like decent pavement, dry, everything. That's 10, 15 psi than I normally run. I usually go 65, 70.
Yeah, here's a crazy one for you. Ethan up there, my teammate, he runs like 100 to 110, which imagining people are like 60 psi different in the same race is wild to me.
Wait, why is he doing that?
That's what he likes.
Always done, or what?
Yeah, that's what he liked.
I mean, I used to run that high.
Yeah.
But that was like tubes, clincher.
Yep.
23 mil, because I'm that old. When that was just like the thing that people did, I would run 110. But now that this new standard's like 28 is like the standard. People even run 30s, and then of course tubeless. You're not so worried. Ooh, a little aggressive there.
Yeah, that was.
And then also people obviously like tubeless 28 is like the standard, and tubeless 30 like you can get away with like we said 55, 60. Don't have to worry about pinch flats. I think one of the big reasons I ran higher is there are 2 reasons. There was a misconception on my part that more air means it goes faster. Yep,
it feels faster.
It does, but it's not.
No.
Or even if it is, it's marginal, and I think that it's not. Like once you get over like 80, I think 80 is like ideal or something like that on good pavement. There's a good calculator that because I think Zip has one, but then I use the
Silka.
What's the one? Yeah, Silka, that's the one. Thank you. Silka has a good calculator. But yeah, man, 100 to 110 from Ethan. That is wild. A 60 psi swing from some other racers in this field with arguably the same or similar equipment.
Yeah, and they're all cornering about the same. Like he doesn't have any noticeable difference in cornering performance, so maybe it's all just water under the boat,
Yeah, we do make a big deal about equipment. Maybe a bigger deal than we should. It's fun to talk about, but at the end of the day, you hear stuff like Ethan's running 110.
Well, we have so many different options with so many different claimed benefits. It's easy to get caught up in it.
Yeah, I'm a late adopter generally, but I'm on 165 cranks now because and speaking of that, I have a stationary bike in my garage, and I did a few rides because my first concern was like, if I buy this 165 millimeter crank, am I just not going to be able to ride it? Is it going to like suck? So I did some rides on my stationary bike where I can actually make that adjustment. And
Nice.
I could barely even tell the difference. So I did a few indoor rides, and I was like, okay, I'm going to commit to it now. So
Yeah.
so now's the time, right? We're approaching. There's only a couple more races on the calendar for me, at least, and then it's off season. And that's when you kind of experiment with new equipment. I kind of want to try narrower bars. I've always been on 42s, but man, changing bars is kind of a pain. Like cutting and rebleeding and all that stuff is no fun.
Yeah, especially nowadays with integrated stuff, you can dig yourself quite a maintenance and bike repair hole, you know?
Yeah,
Oh,
and I just don't know if it's worth it. And it's the type of thing where I don't. My indoor bike, yeah, he did get close to sending it in that gravel, didn't he?
right in front of you.
Yeah, maybe that outside line is maybe it's open there for a reason. It's just terrifying, sketchy outside line. But yeah, maybe a quick update on the race because we're getting so sidetracked on equipment.
Right.
I'm kind of like okay with my position here. I've been in the top third. I'm not overly aggressive or wasting unnecessary energy, kind of fighting for the difference between 23rd wheel and 14th wheel. Like to me at this point in the race, it's about the same. So I'm not overly concerned. Once you get to a certain point, which in this case it looks like maybe top 20, top 25, the corner gets easier. Like look at this right here. So I'm pedaling through this entire thing. I mean, granted I was down at 20 something watts there for a minute, but I didn't use any brakes. I didn't even have to coast. We talked earlier in this podcast about how coasting is essentially like using your brakes. So this is where you want to be. Plus, the first part of this race was so hard. There was like a third of the field that just got dropped in the first 10 minutes of this race. So, oh, that's a good line right there.
Yeah.
Just keep pedaling.
And going
now
inside for that one. Oh, that was quite a line.
It's almost like I know what I'm doing for a second. But yeah, I think that I'm just happy making up 5 or 10 wheels like I just did right there. And then if somebody wants to fight me for one, I'm not going to spend the unnecessary energy or take any unnecessary risks. I'll just let it go. And I'm just trying to conserve and save energy because looking like, we talked about how there was no threatening breakaway that had anything more than 5 seconds, 10 seconds in this race. So it looks like it's going to be a field sprint, even though we're still 26 kilometers to go. Like I'm fine just chilling in this position. Do you guys usually stay pretty organized throughout the race?
Yeah, we tend to kind of stay together a good bit. One of our things is we do have to be farther up to respond to stuff. It seems like you're giving yourself the freedom to miss a break here. Whereas if we miss a break, it's kind of on us to start bringing it back or bridge to it. So we don't quite have that freedom with having more riders. So yeah, we've got to be a little farther up and spend some energy to stay there during that consequential part of the race.
Yeah, totally. And then having a breakdown of roles. Even if you have 4 riders, I'm sure you guys had roles established. Like, hey, probably Sam's not going to be killing himself to stitch back up breakaways, right? Because he's got the big boy sprinter legs.
Yeah, absolutely. We're trying to keep a few key guys as fresh as possible, and yeah, spend our energy as wisely as we can, especially once we start to understand that a bunch sprint is going to happen, and we kind of trust each other to be present. If I've followed 3 moves in a row, I'm not going to be able to follow that 4th one, or even if I follow one hard one. I've got to have somebody else up there too, prepared to respond.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. Taking turns like that's an unspoken thing, but maybe it should be spoken because I see some teams not getting that right, which is like, dude, hey, even if you are the protected sprinter, if your teammates are all tapped out, like you got to step in and give them a rest and like, burn that one match. Oh, and see, this is what I was talking about. You see a little gap like that, carry your speed. I didn't even have to use any power. I just didn't brake. Yeah, send it. Don't brake, send it. That's the key. That's the takeaway. Don't brake, send it.
Just
no, but
send
seriously.
It, man. Hope there's room on the outside.
It's a thing I hesitate to say because I don't want to give new riders. This is you, by the way, in front of me.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, that's for the people listening. Hopefully, you know that's you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Will in front, guys. Lucky number
Number
13.
13.
So it's a thing. Oh, there's another move on the inside here. Oh, I'm just gonna keep going because I think
Just
right here
hopping
I want to go
hop into
find
echelon
Ryan.
wheels. Yeah.
Again,
Okay,
man.
so is Ryan in front of you?
Yes, because he was part of that earlier move, and he's been up there for a while, and that's where he likes to be. He's got that ability, which I'm super jealous of, is to go with the breakaway and then like go with the counter and then go with the counter and then go with the counter. Like I gotta, if I'm gonna go for something, I gotta sit back and rest for a while. I got those sprinter legs, which is like I can unload it, but it's gonna take me a while to recover.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, absolutely.
But before I lose track, the one thing I was gonna say is something I'm kind of reluctant to say because there's some nuance to it. But because I don't want to give new racers. Woo! Look at you, buddy.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. There's space. That'd been funny if I was like, you can hear in the GoPro me screaming at you or something.
Back to the point of don't break, send it. That's
don't break,
case
send
right
it.
there.
If there's space, and this is the point I was trying to make, is if there's space, because I don't want to dispense dangerous advice to new racers, because every time you use the brakes or coast, you are wasting energy, especially braking, right? You're wasting energy. So the thing I want to say, without making people new riders dangerous, is like, don't brake. Like if you're coming into a wall of riders, go around it, find space if at all possible, and do not stop pedaling. Do not brake, and just try to conserve all of your momentum. That's the name of the game, guys. That's the secret. It's really not that complicated. Conserve your speed, conserve your momentum, and then you're going to have that realization, which is the best realization ever. I'm sure you can relate, Will. It's when it's like a lap to go and you're like, wait a second, I'm like fifth wheel, it's one lap to go, my heart rate's under control. Like, why is this so easy? And the truth is, it's not easy for everybody, but it's a million decisions you've made up until that moment that has made it feel easy, but it's really not. Oh, look at the inside line. That's the one you were talking about, that inside line. It could be dangerous at moments in this race, which we'll get to, but that was pretty epic. I just made up 5 wheels because I didn't brake. I just sent it. Is that the name of this video now? That's the title of this video. Don't brake, send it.
Just send it. If you see space, take it. And actually, to go along with that theme, the guy like on your right hip right now, I think that's Hayden. He was on my team the first year I did this race with Echelon, and his brakes stopped working. He did not have any brakes for this entire race, which
just, like, right
was
now?
Amazing that he made it through. No, not this race that we're watching now, but the first time I did it when he was on Echelon with me. He did it without brakes at all. So
wait, how does that work? Wouldn't you just run into somebody? He's just that good at like
he
gauging
could
the speed?
Yeah, he just can go around. We call him the Kiwi Cannonball because he's nice and compact.
Yeah, that was 19, I think, right? I raced it in 18 and 19, and he was on Echelon in 19, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he found success. I think he won a couple of stages. Yeah, he's always a guy to look out for, especially with the last name Strong. You always look out for the guy with the last name Strong. So now, when you're this close to the front, you risk that surge happening, and it's important to protect your position when the surges happen. And you saw that I was on the left. The left was slowing down. The right was moving up, and that's generally the way it works here in the top 15 riders when it's not controlled by a team. And just identifying those moments when there's a winning side and a losing side, make sure you're on the winning side. And it's easier said than done. I found a pretty good way there to transition from the side that was slowing down to the side that was moving up, and I conserved my momentum like we just talked about, and then that means I preserved my position. And I still like this outside line. Even though sometimes it got pinched off, but right there was looking pretty good. I was able to continue pedaling through it. And there he is in the rear camera, Mr. 110 PSI. No problems for him.
Not at all. Not an issue. So this, what you just did, taking that the brick right there, I learned when I first did this race that like the brick was a totally fine line. So that was actually probably my favorite line. And then you'd have plenty of momentum for the outside of this little roundabout area, and it would set you up pretty good for that exit corner too, being on the inside of that.
Dude, people were scared of that brick. It's literally indistinguishable from the road. It's not brick.
Right.
It's not like cobbles. Yeah, it's just like textured brick, and yeah, people were scared of the brick, and you could save all of your speed, like you said, and bring it right through the roundabout. Now there was an opportunity for me right there to fly up the inside, but always the question is somebody going to leave space for me? Because it's a risk, not just a danger risk of like, if they don't save space for me, am I going to like really force the issue and potentially crash? But also there's the risk of like, okay, if I back off, that means I'm going to squeeze a handful of brakes and do 1100 watts to get back up to speed. So you have to, you can't, I don't want people to listen to what we've been saying and just be like, I'm just going to find every little gap and shoot it, because you're going to end up wasting energy if you choose the wrong time. And identifying the right time is a skill. And Hayden Strong is really good at it, racing with no brakes. Any successful crit racer worth their salt is going to be really good at identifying those moments. And am I going to take the brick line? There's the brick line.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Totally chill. I don't understand. I used that way more last year on this course. This year, I was finding inside pretty good because I could continue pedaling. But yeah, like I was having no problems with that entry into the roundabout.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think one of the important things in that moving up or maintaining position efficiently is kind of looking up, seeing where the swarm is happening or where it's bunching up, and maybe don't shoot that gap if it looks like it's bunching up on the inside or if people are losing momentum on the inside. So yeah, getting a feel for it. There is a craft to it, but there's a certain point where you do need to send things,
Especially in critical moments of the race. Like if you're seeing a gap and you're like, wow, that gap looks like it might close, that's a risk you might have to take based on your position and how close you are to the finish. And if it closes, then yeah, you're SOL. Like you're on the brakes and you're going to sprint back up to speed. Sorry, that's the way it works. You don't get all of them right. But when it does work and you can shoot a gap, what's the aviator sprinter's name? I keep forgetting his name.
Lucas Burgoyne.
Yeah, Lucas had, in case you guys missed the Winfield video, I think it was like 1.5 laps to go or something like that. Maybe even last lap. It was like at the very end of the race, most consequential part. I just saw him in my camera and he just found this gap. He was in like crappy position, like back with me, fighting for 15th or 20th. And then he found this god line into the final couple of corners. And I don't think he made 1,300 watts. Maybe he made 600, which is like kind of par for the course on the last lap. And he just made up like maybe not 15, probably 10 or 12 wheels. And I was like, those are the things that you identify, that you could spend 74 minutes of a 75-minute race doing everything right. And then if you zig when you should have zagged, that could be the difference between a result and not a result. And this is true, by the way, guys, for highest levels of this sport too. You'll watch this happen in Pro Tour races, right? Like the Tour de France and stuff. You'll see sprint trains get one small thing wrong and like it's all over. And it's crazy how consequential. That's what I love about this sport, man. Is this discipline of this sport is it comes down to these tiny little decisions that can be so impactful. Another reason why I like this is because I'm so bad at other disciplines in this sport, like time trialing and climbing and stuff. I'm pretty awful at. Oh, here's Ryan, by the way, 68 again. So
reunited.
Yeah, we're gonna race a bit more like a team later on in this race. You'll see. But you guys are good at it, man. You guys, I never see you guys alone, hardly ever. I saw moments ago I was gonna mention it. You guys were like tapping each other, like talking to each other, like really good communication. You guys train a lot and race a lot together. It's very obvious you guys know what you're doing.
Yeah, without radios as well, we have to stay in proximity. Just to have any communication, we have to be nearby.
Let's talk about radios and the NCL Denver video I'm about to release, because I just finished recording that yesterday.
Nice.
We'll talk a minute about that. Won't spoil too much because I have a whole video I'll post about it. But man, like, what are your thoughts on race radio? How often do you guys use them? Ever?
Yeah, we do use them. We actually this weekend. Currently, we've been using them again, and just like not using them often, sometimes people forget they have them. Like you're just listening for a director on the side, which I actually think is one of the best utilities of a radio, is hearing gaps from a director. there's no pit board in cycling, even though we probably should have one. Um, yeah, having the ability to get that intel when other teams might not be able to, that's a huge gain.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it. You took the words out of my mouth. I think the DS in your ear is going to be more important than your teammates in your ear, because when you really do need to like communicate and it needs to be very clear, you're together for like the wheels are in motion. Pardon the pun. Already, you know what I mean? It's like the lead out's already happening. Right here, if I had a radio with Ryan, like I wouldn't. There's not much useful information I could be saying. My other issue with radios is, like you mentioned, if you're not using them regularly, then you almost forget that they're there, and you're not really using it when you should be anyway. So it's a bit tough, and they can be really hard to hear if you don't position them right. So they're prone to issues, crosstalk with other people, with other frequency bands and stuff like that. But we had them at NCL, and they are a prerequisite. Like, I don't understand how. I think there were some teams that didn't have them, and it's like, how are you guys even doing this? Like, it's impossible, because NCL, for those who don't know, is this new race league, and there are substitutions. There's a pit. Look at Ryan come up the inside. He almost went down right there. Yeah. He came up the inside. He came shoulder to shoulder with the Avolo rider Sean, and like they almost wiped each other out because they both had the same idea at the same exact time. But they got through it safely. But that was a line for sure. But yeah, NCL without radios is like, how do you do the substitutions? How do you communicate that you're gonna substitute? How do you communicate all of, like, once you introduce substitutions and then points on every lap, it's like you have to be in constant communication with your teammates. And I just didn't understand how other teams were doing it without. Almost all of them had radios though, but I think there was like one or two teams I saw without. Crazy.
Yeah, that seems like it'd be nearly impossible. A lot of shouting across the course.
Or like your DS is holding up like a whiteboard. I saw DS holding up like a whiteboard, but it's like, man, are you gonna take your gaze off of the road for a minute and try to look at a whiteboard like across the like? Guys, close your eyes for 5 seconds right now and try not to crash. Pretend you're in this race and try not to crash, or like overlap wheels. It's not gonna happen.
Yep. Yeah, I think some like heads-up display or something like that would be a good substitution, but we don't have that technology yet.
Yeah, maybe there would be something there. They have those helmets now with built-in radios, which oh, I'm going to try the same thing. Whoops. Never mind. No, I'm not. I was about to try the same thing that Ryan did, and then saw some riders, whether it was intentional or not, we won't speculate, but we saw some riders kind of flick the inside, which is another trick, and another thing that I try not to talk about too openly, which is, if you don't want somebody to take the inside, do what that aviator just did, which is like, and again, I don't know if he did it on purpose or not. I'm not going to make any accusations, but flick the inside like that, like move your bike, basically do what Legion does in most corners, which is like occupy the inside until the last possible moment. And if you kind of look dangerous and erratic like that, especially if you do it last minute, then people aren't going to come up the inside and dive bomb you. Again, if you're new to the racing, don't do that, please. If you're not new to racing, also please don't do that unless you are really hyper aware of what you're doing, because it can be very dangerous. Speaking of dangerous, there is a crash. And okay, don't judge me, Will. Don't judge me. I'm taking a free lap. Can we talk free laps?
Yeah, let's talk free laps. It's a pretty crucial part of the sport.
Okay, I'm just gonna say it. I didn't crash. Obviously, I'm still on my bike. I also could have sprinted back onto the wheel. I squeezed a bunch of brakes to avoid running over that Blazer, who found an interesting time to take a nap on the side of the road.
He actually bounced off of my foot with his head. Fun fact.
Oh my God! And you felt somebody's head hit your shoe? Is that?
Yep.
Is that where we're at in this race?
He pedaled right next to me, and his crash just hit him right on my shoe with his helmet. So.
Wow. Okay. So it softened the blow.
Continuing
because he was
to the
okay.
free lap. Yeah. He seemed okay.
Oh yeah. So free lap. Okay. Here's the thing. You get a free lap. This was very marginal for me. Like I said, I fully admit I could have done a sprint, gotten right back on terms, and I would have been back in the race, no problem. A couple of thoughts here. If if you can take a free lap, take a free lap. That's my first piece of advice. I think a lot of new racers and even racers been at it for a while, I see get caught behind a crash, slow to a crawl, and then kill themselves to get back up to speed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the rules are you have to be, it's like significantly impeded. They used to have some language like that. It is up to the official. So it is always a risk. The official could have told me right here as we roll back to the pit, I saw you, rider number, whatever I was. I saw you. You do not get a free lap. You're chasing.
Yep.
That's a risk I'm taking right here, guys.
Totally
he watched
possible.
the whole thing happen. Totally possible. I've seen it happen before. It's never happened to me, but I've seen it happen before. So that's a risk. The other thing we're going to see here in a second is free laps aren't always as free as they sound. Yes,
No,
I'm
not at all.
recovering now. My heart rate is not 165 like it was. It's 123. But watch this. They let us back in. Guys, I was 15th, 20th wheel at the time. Maybe even better. I was in pretty good position. I'm back here now at the tail end of the group, which, by the way, is about half of what it was.
Yeah.
Back here with the gaps, with the people getting split off the back. So this is the other risk. It's more consideration. When I was behind that Blazer rolling around on the ground, I was like, okay, I could sprint, do an effort, and then probably maintain 20th position, maybe 24th position. Or I could take a free lap, roll the dice. The official could be like, no, not you. And that's like, oh, crap, there goes my race. And also the risk of what happened right there. The official is like, we'll let you back in, but it's right at the back. Look at the rear cam, guys.
And it's now.
Right at the back.
You barely got a lap.
And exactly, it wasn't even a lap. I was telling the guy, this is another thing and this is like the third time I've said this, but another thing I can say in this free form podcast, but I wouldn't necessarily broadcast, like on the main channel or just super openly, is like, take your time. Like, there's no rush. Like, get your full free lap. We got a free half a lap. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you've got to relax in that. You can't be turned on still. You got to take a few breaths.
And it's your adrenaline's coursing through, the blood pressure's high, and you're like, I just need to get to the pit and get back in the race. It's like, no. Take a breath, take a sip of water. And I was telling the people around me, I don't know if the GoPro's going to pick it up, but I was like, guys, because people are like riding, like 250 watts back to the pit. I was like, guys, chill. Like let's all take our time and get back to the pit. I'm not suggesting we're going to take 3 free laps. I've called people out for doing that before. Again, the officials should do a good job of policing that. But let's get a full free lap. There's no rush, because there's no rush. Like, not much else to say. So anyway, now I'm at the freaking very back, and I'm kind of kicking myself for not doing that quick surge. This didn't work out for me this time. But hey, look, heart rate is under control, even though I spent about the last lap getting back up to speed. And now I'm going to chip away at it. So I think the remainder of this race, which is 12 laps to go, my 2 priorities are get back up to Ryan. It's priority number 1. Support him if he wants to send a last, 2 or 3 lap flyer, which is kind of his move. And then also just make sure we're together because, strength in numbers. And then my second priority is for my own personal ambition is to fight for the wheels, get behind the leadouts, which will inevitably start to organize ahead of the field sprint. But I want to hear
if they haven't already,
If they haven't already, right? Yeah, because Legion's famous for taking it up early. But I want to hear about your guys' plan because I don't know if we've talked about that specifically for the end of this race. There's 4 of you, and look at this. Sorry, real fast. This is why it's dangerous back here, guys.
Yeah.
Riders pulling off, getting dropped. It's time to move up, Jeff. But don't let me interrupt you. Tell me your plan. You guys have 4 riders still in this race. What's the plan for success?
Yeah. So we were going to go for a sprint. Obviously, we're going to have Hugo lined it up for us. I'm always going to be the sweeper pretty much. So sweeping for those guys and try and move up a little later, I would say. And then go for the sprint. We know it's a long sprint from that last corner, but positioning into that last corner is key, even into the last lap, because it's so hard to move up at the speed. With the ability of Legion to defend these corners, just because it's tight, it makes it easier to defend that front. So, yeah, we've got to move up when we get an opportunity to do so, and ideally be top 5 into that last corner.
Yeah, rolls. I want you guys to. That's the key takeaway. Is Will and the boys on Project Echelon have distinct roles. You have Hugo on the front, piloting things, quarterbacking things. You said in the last video that he's sort of the captain for this series.
Yeah.
2 sprinters. Not sure the order. Not sure if you guys even know the order, if that matters. Is the order for the 2 sprinters established, or is it up to them?
It usually depends on who's able to get there when, and then it mixes up throughout the last few laps, just depending on who gets chopped, where they end up, if they're even on the train. So yeah, it depends.
Right. We have the same thing on Mike's, which is like the order of the lead out, the first couple of 2-3 guys rotating. That is pretty well established. The sweeper's pretty well established, but if we have 2 options for the sprinters, we kind of usually let them sort it out. It's generally it'll be me and Ryan if it's a harder crit. It'll be like me and Sean. Kind of depends on the race, but that's generally how we do it too. But roles is so important, and guys falling into rhythm. I mean, you guys race enough and train enough together where you know your strengths and weaknesses, you know what each other are capable of, and it's so important that you have those roles established, because if everyone, I'm not going to name any names, there's some local teams where it's like there's 6 strong guys at the end of a crit, but they're all fighting against each other, and it's like, no man, you got to have roles, because nobody cares on a result sheet if you get 3rd, 5th, 6th, and 8th, It's first and last. It's first, and then it could be first and everyone else is DNF, right? It's just you're fighting for your best possible single outcome. This is a small win, by the way. I'm going to chip away at it, and this is my first of several small wins, if I remember correctly. I'm not panicking, though, right?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
We're inside of 10Ks, but small wins like that where I'm not having to do a gajillion watts to get up to speed. I'm going to do a bit more power here and carry my speed through the final couple of corners and try to move up some more. Let's see if I can. This is looking good on the right, although we're already going 32 miles an hour. But yeah, I'm going to try to find those small wins, guys, where I'm not killing it to move up, but I'm kind of chipping away at it. But sorry, Will, you were going to say something.
Oh, actually, moving to what you just did there, it's not even that you're pushing that much harder to move up after that corner. So like that finish straight into the first corner, sometimes you can be doing 200 watts, 300 watts, and you're moving past a bunch of guys who had to kick harder than you out of that last corner, and now they're not able to pedal at all because they're trying to rest. So yeah, 200 to 300 watts can get you a lot of positioning there, which was excellent because you saved energy into that last corner. So that was a great strategy.
It's compound. Thank you. It's compounding, right? It's it's slow is smooth and smooth is fast, right? Actually, the one I like better, which is related, is consistency is efficiency. Like I was consistent through the final last couple, and I'm carrying 2 more miles an hour, which doesn't sound like much, but in order to go from 32 to 34 miles an hour, you got to do 1,200 watts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very consequential. So I'm able to do 200 and not only maintain, but also pass. So looks like I'm trying to do the same thing again. And it's like low key working through here. I'm doing over 1,000 right there, but this was a good opportunity to find this wheel. It looks like number 10 I'm going to jump on. Yep, I'm going to jump on number 10. And again, that outside line, sure, it's a little bit longer just in terms of like the distance, but carrying your speed is more important. Probably should have stayed on 10 there. It looked like he was getting squeezed. Yeah, he's going to get squeezed anyway.
Yeah.
Sometimes that line looks so good until it didn't. You know what I'm saying? It gets pinched right off. But yeah, we're chipping away at it. Look, guys, 167 beats per minute. We're still very controlled. And look who I just got a peek of. The boys in blue. There's you, Will, on the right. And also in front of you guys, on the left there, 68. That's my teammate. So we're all in this position where it's like, okay, we're essentially where we want to be, maybe a bit further back, but it's like, okay, Legion, Aviators, Blazers, do your thing. We're ready. All of these teams that don't have 8 riders are kind of thinking the same thing, right?
Yep, absolutely. We're just trying to maintain a good position and wait for our opportunity.
On the blue train now, man.
That's right.
Got Ryan in front of me. We're on the blue train. It's a good place to be because, like I said in the Winfield race, you guys, it seems like you time it right. You're not going to try to go toe-to-toe with Legion and Blazers. You just don't have the numbers. But but you guys are kind of queued up and let them do their thing, and then at just the right time, get around them. So I'm going to try to
absolutely.
I'm going to try to stay on Ryan. Man, it's hard to stay together though, because
it is. You can see I actually just moved in front of my sprinter Ethan there, just because I can still give him space from beside him. at this point, it could be easier to ride next to each other, just so you know a guy next to you is defending you.
Yeah, and then for example, the reason I lost contact with Ryan, he's just to the right of me, by the way, is like I found an opening on the left, he found an opening on the right. I am in no position at this point in the race to like intentionally eat wind to maintain contact. If this were last lap, absolutely, but I'm not strong enough to like, okay, I'm just going to eat a bunch of wind just in order to maintain contact. Like I'm going to find those small wins where I can. I have to be efficient. I'm not one of these 450 watt FTP riders. I'm barely 350 watt FTP riders. So I'm more about finding those gaps and moving up efficiently. This rider's terrifying me. Even he's got his hand up now. We saw him doing the bounce thing that we talked about 60 minutes ago. So he's got a flat tire. And now I am going to do a bit of an effort here just to get back on Ryan's wheel because I saw that there was a gap behind him. I knew I was going to have to fight for it. So a bit of an effort there, but I'm back into his draft and kind of this is where I want to be because now, man, we're inside 7 laps to go. I think we're 6.5 laps to go. We're getting down to it now. Disruptors have 2 guys. We have 2 guys. You guys have 4 guys. You can see a lot of those teams, smaller tier or at least lower in number teams, are back here fighting it out. You guys are organized and in control. This is where you want to be, right? Yeah,
we're pretty content with this. Maybe moving up a little bit farther, but hanging on to that Legion train, as you can see, is a bumpy affair.
That's the pinch I was just talking about.
Man,
I wanted to stay on Ryan, but I wasn't going to force the issue there. That was a ball. It looks like Ryan went into the gravel anyway. So, yeah, Ryan forced the issue. He made it through the pinch point, but then he went into the gravel for a little bit with, he's got a mountain biking, gravel racing background. No worries from him at all in that gravel pit. In fact, he told me he went through it several times during this race. For him, it's like no big deal. Yeah, no sweat.
Yep.
But I missed the pinch, and now I lost. You can see how consequential that is. He made it through that pinch point. Now he's like 5-6 wheels in front of me at least. In fact, I can't even see him. He might even be further up. But that's how quickly stuff can happen, and it's really tricky at this level of racing. It's not like your local P12 race where we can stick together. 6 of us, 7 of us, no problem, maintain control. But out here, when you're fighting in the chop here behind the leadouts, man, people. You leave an inch open, and then people are going to take it. Find this inside line. Ooh, I should have just given it one more little spurt and followed you. tried to disrupt you guys a little bit. But I see at least 3 of you together. Probably the 4th one was up there. You guys are still pretty controlled.
Yeah, I probably just jumped onto Hugo's wheel there. So now we're in a little bit different order than planned. But that's okay if we're all together.
Together's the most important part because you can always switch order. That's another reason why being together is important because you can switch order relatively easy if you're all together. If you're not together, switching the order is like, hey, first thing first, we have to get together, the 4 of us, strength in numbers.
Yep.
It looks like Texas Roadhouse, they were together for a bit. It looks like that one rider's pulled off. Like his duty is done at 5 kilometers to go. That's a testament to how fast things are going. He literally just elbow flicked his sprinter through. Who's this guy in front of me? I'm drawing a blank on his name. He had a good first 6 or 7 stages. He was in the top 10. He was getting call-ups.
I think this is Fergus, right? Is that Fergus Arthur?
Fergus. I think that is. Yeah, he's their sprinter at least. Yeah, Fergus. Apologies if you're listening to this for forgetting your name. I was chatting with him. He's like, dude, I listen to your videos. I'm like, you're doing something else. I'm not taking any credit for your success. But thank you for that. I appreciate it. But that was a big compliment because you have a guy finding success at this level saying like, I don't miss a single one of your videos. I was like, dude, that is the best endorsement possible. So thank you.
Yeah, that is awesome.
That little move on the inside, but door shut right there. Do you see that? So that was the crash, yeah?
Yeah, that was it.
That was the crash on the inside. That explained the slowdown. Now, you can see the big slowdown. Man, I wasn't paying attention to my speed. But all of our speed came down who were adjacent to that crash. Ryan, unfortunately, was caught up in that crash. Remember, I was on the left-hand side of the road. He was on the right that moment. And he was like first to the scene. He went down. His race is over. He's okay. He made it to the next day. Everything's fine with him and his bike. But he's unfortunately out. So now I'm flying solo again. You guys made it through, although I spoke with Ethan, and he said that he had to also squeeze a bunch of brakes like myself.
Yeah, he did have to scrub some speed. I was, one of the first guys to not have to scrub speed who was behind that corner. So I was lucky enough to maintain momentum through it. But yeah, Ethan did have to scrub some speed, which can cost energy, but he's pretty good at it.
Yep. And I am now. I was chill through that roundabout, but I was up to like high 160s, 168, I think, beats per minute. I was a good 10 beats per minute higher than where I was before that crash, and I had to do an effort. Along with these riders behind me, also had to do an effort to get back on. It was almost a sprint-like effort to get back on. So I was hurting for sure. I was looking for opportunities to recover, but the problem is like now's not the time to recover because Legion and whatever's left of the Blazers lead out had a clear shot. They didn't even know the crash happened, right? It's the benefit of riding in front or close to the front is you get to be ahead of all that nonsense that happens in the final laps of a crit. And they're not slowing down for anybody. In fact, from this moment on, we're 3 laps to go. It's only going to get faster from here. So it's not a good time for me to be like, hey, I need to sit in, guys. Can we slow it down? If you're not moving up, you're moving back at this point in the race, right?
There's no rest anymore. You're just trying to save what you can.
Yep, and I don't have much left. In part because, guys, this is the highest level of crit racing in the country, and also because of that sprint effort that I made after the slowdown. What I need to do here is just follow some of these guys who I know, like Rensburg in front of me, right? We started on his wheel, where it looks like we're going to finish on his wheel. I know he's going to, if not for himself, for his teammate, Riley, he's going to get up into the most consequential part of this race, the top 5, top 10 when push comes to shove, because he's got that pedigree, he's got that ability to ride up there, and I cannot let riders like him get away. Oh, here's is that Sam? Who is that?
Yeah, 17. Sam moving up, trying to get back with us.
Sam moving up, and I should be doing the same thing, but yeah, high 160s here. Cannot be trying to recover at this moment. I have to be moving up. There's just not a whole lot left in the tank. Are you guys? How are you guys after that dust up? Were you able to get reorganized with 2 laps to go?
Yeah, you can actually see Ethan a little bit behind you. He's moving up on the right now, trying to get back in contact. But we still have Sam there, Ethan, and Hugo. So now I'm the last guy in the train. I can see all of them up there, and now we're going to get back together and do a last push. But this is late. This is really late.
Yeah, riders passing me on the right in the gravel. If you guys noticed that on the left, saw Corey doing his lead out duties, which is weird to see him doing finishing with 2 laps to go. Pretty bizarre. We were talking about how Legion was doing some uncharacteristic riding throughout this series. But people are going to be taking more risks through here. I saw a rider, like I said, on the right passing me through the gravel, which is like, what, huh? Wasn't expecting that. There was no space to my right, but there is if you go off the road. So that's what he did. Now it's time. I need to get out in the wind and smash right now. But the problem is we're going 31 miles an hour up this little riser, 32 miles an hour up this little riser. So if somebody else is going to do it, there you go. Try to follow him.
Love
it's always
that.
so funny this
Ride
moment
that
when you're
wave.
looking back. Yeah, it's funny in this moment when you're looking back at footage and you're like, just get out in the wind and let's do 1,000 watts, Jeff.
Yeah.
It's like, I've been fighting tooth and nail for the last 75 minutes, and you can see the Legion riders are peeling one after another. They are completely emptying the tank, which, if there's any doubt how fast we're going, you have professional riders going so hard on the front at this point with 1 kilometer to go that they are peeling off. That's the definition of a lead out. So if I get out in the wind, I have to be going even faster than them. Oh, I'm yelling at this guy. Yeah, because he started to crowd me, and it's like wasn't even able to pass that one rider who's letting this gap open up. Well, eventually I do, it looks like. I can see you guys up there. You guys are doing well. Front camera runs out of batteries, by the way. So.
Oh man.
So tell us what's going on then with the 4 of you.
Yeah, so we're a little spread out, but Hugo's on the front of our little train, and then we've got Sam and Ethan behind. And Hugo's in a great position. Weirdly, captaining, sometimes you have to spend less energy than if you're sweeping. Hugo has been up there in the front, hasn't been swarmed too much, and our team was actually placed really well here. Being up in the front out of that gap closing thing that you just had to do can really save you for that final straight.
Yep, and that's where it bit me, because now I'm 173 beats per minute, and I was closing those gaps that you mentioned. I was behind that. you could see a couple of them right before the front camera went out. So now I'm just on gap closing duty, and I'm just gonna put my head down and do an effort here in the final straight. I guess we could call it a sprint. There's not much left in the tank after the gaps
Same,
were being
yeah.
closed. I forgot what I was. I think I was 16th or something like that. It's nothing to write home about, but it's progressively better throughout this series. And then where'd you guys end up? What was Sam your best place finisher?
Ooh, actually, I think Hugo ended up being our best place finisher in that. I'm not entirely certain, but yeah, we were pretty surprised that Hugo got like third or fourth, I believe, in that. So we had
Oh, no
a
kidding.
good result.
So it's not always like the big sprint numbers. It's so much more about positioning and everything else we talk about on this channel. But that'll be it for today. Stage 4 of the 2023 Intelligentsia Cup. This is Mundelein. Will, it was great having you on, man.
Yeah, thanks. Good timing yet again.